Hi friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If it's your first time here, my name is Amber and I am so glad that you came across my channel and that you found me in the big world of YouTube, and I really hope you enjoy today's video. As you can see, we're going to be talking about choosing the right friends. And I think that this topic is so important. As a matter of fact, I actually had this video in mind to do months ago. I had the outline prepared, I had things ready for it, but for some reason I just didn't get around to it. And at one point I really wasn't feeling it at the moment, but recently some of you may or may not know about Shanquella Robinson. I think that's how you say her name, Shanquella. Shanquella was a 25-year-old woman from Charlotte, North Carolina, which is an area where I used to live. And she went on a trip with her so-called friends. And she did more than just go. I mean, she actually paid their way for them to go. She knew these people from college, so it's not like they were people she just met recently. These were college buddies of hers, and she just wanted them all to go to Cabo, Mexico, and just have a good time together. It's just really sad. The story is just so sad. Long story short, the first day they get there, there's an altercation that takes place that really isn't random. Actually, this whole thing was planned out in advance, allegedly. We know it's not alleged. She gets beat up, and she gets beat so bad that she dies. I mean, one of her friends literally beats her to death. And I don't want to get any deeper than that because I've tried to keep up with some of the story and the investigation, but I'm a very tender-hearted person and I just don't want to know certain things. It's just really sad to me. I hate seeing people taken advantage of, and I hate seeing people hurt. I hate evil. I really do. And so I just try to keep up a little bit with the story, but not too much, just to protect myself. But I bring this up because what happened to Shanquella, honestly, has happened to so many people. And I'm not saying that to try to act like it's unimportant. Obviously, it is important, and that's why I'm doing this video. There are people out there who have lost their lives to someone who they thought loved them and was for them. They wound up in situations thinking like, oh, like this is a friend of mine. This is someone who I can trust. And we see things like this happen too, not just with friends, but with family members. There are so many people out there whose lives have been destroyed or taken from their very own family. And I just think that situations like this and stories out there like that just really show us the condition of the human heart. You know, we are capable of doing some very vile and deceptive and evil things. And if we don't have Jesus, if we don't have a relationship with God, there's no telling what we can do. And, you know, we read about things in the Bible. You know, you look at Cain and Abel. You know, like, how do you take the life of your very own brother? And even in that story, we see that it was rooted in jealousy. Jealousy. And I'm sorry, y'all. I'm not trying to sound like a pessimist or anything like that. And I'm not trying to sound deep. But there's times I'm scrolling on social media and I see people just showing off, you know, their house, their cars, their designer collection, their affiliations. And my whole thing is, you know, I'm not saying that people can't show things like that, but I do think you need to be wise and we need to be careful because people see things, all right? They're not focused on the person. There are some people who are just focused on what they can get, and they start to allow things like jealousy, envy, covetousness, and hatred to settle in their hearts, and that causes them to do some really crazy things. And so that's kind of a random point, but I just think it's so, so important to guard yourself. And there's a passage in the book of Proverbs. It's right here in front of me. I have my Bible, and it's in chapter 4, verse 23. And you might be familiar with this passage already, but the verse says, "Keep your heart with all vigilance, for from it flows the springs of life." Keep your heart with all vigilance, for from it flow the springs of life. Years ago, I heard this verse, and I remember telling someone, I don't quite understand what that means. And I remember them saying it so clearly and plainly, and it's stuck in my head now. But they said, Amber, in other words, you have to guard your heart because that is the core to who you are. Once you have allowed someone into your heart or into your life, this person now has a type of access to you that not everyone has. And they're able to understand you even deeper as a person. At this point, you've now become vulnerable to them. And now they know your strengths and they know your weaknesses. So when you think about that, and I don't say that to scare anybody, by the way. I think vulnerability is a good thing and it's healthy. I just don't think that it's for everyone. I think that when we hear, like that verse, and even after I just broke it down for you, I think it should allow you to see that, oh my gosh, like, I don't want everybody knowing everything about me. I don't want everybody knowing, I don't mind people knowing my strengths, but I don't think I really want everybody knowing where I'm weak. And I do think transparency is a powerful thing. I love being transparent. I do think it's important to be open, but there are just certain things about you that not everyone needs to know. A lot of times we look at relationships as this big thing, like, oh yeah, I have standards. When it comes to who I'm in a relationship with, I have standards. And look, that's great. But I think we have a tendency to look at friendships and be like, it's not all that important. I mean, I want to have friends, but I mean, it's not that serious. But I would say that you need to treat friendships with the same importance as you would a relationship. And maybe you don't treat either of them important at all. Girl, get it together. That's all I'm going to say. You are too valuable and you have too much worth to just be letting anybody in your life and come and go as they please. Okay? Jesus did not die on the cross for you to just be like a revolving door. No. Your life, your heart, and your spirit are treasures, and they are very, very important. And so we just have to be mindful of that, and we need to be selective when it comes to people. It's okay to be selective. It is okay to be selective. Now, I'm not saying to be selective and only want to be around people who look good, or people who have money, or people who have status and affiliations. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's okay to be selective when it comes to people when you are looking specifically at their character. I see grown women all the time who still walk around saying things like, oh, I only have pretty friends. I only want pretty friends. And I'm like, who says that? Like, when I meet people for the first time, and if I click with somebody, I'm not focused on their outward appearance. I could care less. What does that have to do with anything, right? So don't be that way. Please do not be shallow-minded in that way. I think something else we have to remember is that the word friend should not just be thrown around casually. I think we have a tendency to just use that word and we use it loosely, but like, there's a difference between your friends and your acquaintances. Now, I'll tell on myself because I know I come on my videos and I say, hey friends, and then I get into it. But I would say for me, it's pretty interesting the dynamic I have because obviously I have about 9,200 subscribers right now, and I don't know all of you individually. But I will say that I think YouTube is very different from other platforms. When I get on YouTube and I create a 25-minute video or a 35-minute video, and somebody watches it all the way through and they take the time to like the video and to comment and to engage with it, that to me speaks volumes. And I think it takes somebody who is really supportive of you and really likes you to take the time to do that. And for me, I come on this platform and I create videos to add value to people. I'm not looking for anything in return. I just want to come on here and create videos that inspire and encourage women to draw closer to God and to know Him deeper and to know Him better. That's what I do. And I think that you all in return add value to me whenever you just take the time to say, hey, Amber, great video. Or even challenge me and say, hey, Amber, great video. I did have a question about X, Y, and Z. I'm not really sure if you're trying to communicate this or that. Or if you say, hey, I kind of disagree with you on such and such. You know, I don't care. I think that that's great because that's how friendships work in real life anyway. We're not always going to agree or see things the same way. But I just say all that to say that my subscribers are my supporters. YouTube is very different from Instagram and TikTok. Okay, it's a very different platform. And when I come on this space, I feel like I can really be myself. And I feel like I can really talk to y'all and just be Amber and be accepted. Y'all don't know me in real life, right? But to know that I can come on here and engage with complete strangers and they're just like, oh man, you know, like, man, I want to subscribe and I want to show love and I want to journey with this person. I think that's a really beautiful thing. But to get back to what I was talking about, I just think that we just have to be selective when it comes to our friends. And you might be wondering, well, Amber, how do you choose your friends? Like, how do you keep the right people around you and in your inner circle? And there's a few different things I look at. I actually have criteria, or actually criterion. I actually have standards, you know, I have things that are prerequisites, things that are important to me. And I think that friends have to share the same values. I mean, just like if you're in a relationship, like no one wants to, well, I say no one, but I would think the majority of us would not want to marry, I am married, but majority of us would not want to marry someone who we don't share the same values with, because that's going to make for a horrible marriage. And it's no different from friendships. You know, you want to be in a friendship with somebody where you share the same values. This has helped me keep the right people in place. I will also tell on myself, this is not really a bad thing, but you should just know that I've had a lot of seasonal friendships in my life. I really have not had the same friends my entire life. I've moved a lot. I was a bit of a nomad, and so I've had a lot of stop and go type of people come in my life. But each one has added value to me. Each one has been beneficial. Some ended unexpectedly, but you know, you just move on. I mean, there's not a single person who I used to be friends with who I have a grudge against now. You know, I don't. I believe that everything happens for a reason, and you just have to be okay with that. You know, we evolve and we change, and other people do too. So it's their right and it's my right as well, just like it's yours. So I have like several things that I consider values or things I look for in friends, and I'll kind of want to share those with you. Actually, I don't kind of want to. I definitely want to share those with you, and hopefully you can pay attention to these things and apply them in your own life too. These are in no particular order. I just want to throw them out there. So the first one I'll start with is integrity. Integrity is who you are and what you do when no one is watching. Now, obviously, I'm not stalking people and in the background, in the shadows, watching them like, I don't do that. But you can tell when people have integrity because they're very, I don't want to say they over communicate, but people who have integrity, they don't want to leave any crumbs behind. Like, they don't want to leave any room for anybody to use anything against them. Here's an example. So the church that I work for, we have a rule that a man and a woman cannot be left alone in the church or wherever by themselves if there's not anyone else around. Or say that there's someone on my team that I want to build a better rapport with and get to know on a personal level, but say the person on the team is a guy. Well, I would have to then bring my husband in the picture so that we can get to know him together, because I don't want to be seen excuse me, I don't want to be seen out somewhere with another man who's not my husband. And even though my intentions are good, their intentions are good, there's people out there who will try to use it against you. We know that Satan is always busy, he's always conniving, he's always plotting. And that might sound extreme to some of you, but once again, I'm a leader in ministry. I don't get to do what everybody else gets to do, and I'm perfectly okay with that too when it comes to things like this. And so, integrity is just saying, hey, let's just make sure, we don't do anything that could tarnish or hurt our reputation. And even in the Bible, I believe it's in 1 Timothy, Paul is telling Timothy, live a life that's above reproach. You don't want to give anybody anything to work against you with. Something else I pay attention to when I am getting to know somebody and looking for a friend is I pay attention to see if this person is encouraging. I'm not saying that they need to always tell me how great I am. That's not what I need or what I'm looking for. But I do think it's important to be around people who are uplifting. I am critical enough as a person. It's something I've had to work against, lay down, and ask Jesus to help me with. So the last thing I need is to be around other people who are critical. I don't want to sit around and talk about this person and how wrong they are. Now look, there are people that I vent about, okay? Why? Because I'm human and I need somebody to know how I'm feeling, and oh my gosh, they're driving me crazy. But I only talk to certain people when it comes to that. There's certain people I can go to and just be like, oh my gosh, this is what happened again or whatever. But I'm very careful, even who I vent to, I'm careful with, because I like to have those friends and those people who will listen to me, but then who will say, well, Amber, this is what you're going to have to do. Or Amber, I understand you. I feel you on that. But you can't let this get to you. I don't really need people who I'm already down there in the hole and they're going to come down to the hole with me and we're just going to be in a hole together. Like, no, I need those friends to come in who say, Amber, how you feel is valid, but we cannot stay here. You have to remember that God sees this person and he loves them just as much as he loves you. And his desire is for this person to be brought out of that brokenness and that insecurity. Once again, I'm not saying that your friends can't, vocalize how they feel or whatever. Like, we're all human. But the bigger thing is just to be around people, like when you leave them, you feel better than when you first came in and saw them. Like, how you are leaving them is not how you came in to see them. I hope that makes sense. The third thing I pay attention to is servanthood. I like to befriend people who put others before themselves. Simple as that. I don't really do well with people who are just always inwardly focused and self-absorbed, self-indulgent. None of my friends are those girls on Instagram who every single caption under their picture is about how they're the baddest chick. Ain't nobody like me. Your man wish you was me. all that kind of stuff. Like, maybe because of my age, I'm 30, I just feel like we should be past that. Like, who wants to get on an app? I say who wants to, a lot of people, obviously. But to get on an app and just tell everybody how you're better than them, like, I'm sorry. I don't want friends like that. I like to have friends who just practice servanthood. Like, it's just who they are to naturally want to help other people and to look out for other people. And I just think it's a beautiful thing. Like, I used to see a lot in real life or on social media, like those friends who show up after their friend just had a baby or their friends getting married, um, just whatever. Like their friend might be sick and they just come by and they like bring them some different treats and whatever. Like I think stuff like that is so sweet. And I had friends who did that for me this past year after a procedure I had. Like they just showed up and they brought dinner and they just came by just to hang out with me and things like that. Like that's how you know when people really are for you. One of the biggest things I look for too in a friend is they have to be honest. I love honesty so much, and sometimes, a lot of times actually, my feelings do get hurt because I'm very sensitive, but I do like having honest people around me because I would rather someone set me straight in the moment and tell me the truth than for me to go do the thing they were telling me not to do and then I have to deal with the effects of it later. So I really do like having people around me who tell it like it is. Of course, be gentle and respectful about it, but I like having people in my life who they're just going to like let me know what's up. And ultimately, when people are honest with you and tell you the truth, it's because they really are trying to help you become better. And so a real friend, they're going to tell you the truth. Something else I pay attention to is a friend who is faithful, a friend who is loyal. Like, I'm not talking about we need to be faithful to each other and like if there's a problem, we're going to beat this person up. I'm not talking about that. Just having a friend that's loyal. Like, loyalty is, to me, just this picture of I'm with you till the end. Like, I'm going to be here for you no matter what. I would say I'm very loyal. Of course, I have a way of, which I already told y'all about, venting and expressing myself. But, I've had friends before, they do things and I vent about it to other friends. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. But one thing I'm not going to do is like attack that person's character or say ugly, mean things. Like, I don't do that. They might do something in that particular thing they did I did not like. But overall, like, I'm not going to rip the person apart. Like, I'm not going to do that. Also, I believe in being there for my friends when they need me. If they're going through something, I want to be there. Even friends I've had who've been caught in habitual sin, like, I don't want to just be there for them when things are rosy and peachy. Like, if you're in the mud, let me get down in the mud with you and let me help you get back to recovery. Let me help you get back to safety, and sometimes it's received well, other times it's not, but I want to be there for my friends, and in those times of adversity, that's when I really want to show up. Another thing that I pay a lot of attention to when it comes to friends is I like to have friends who are disciplined. I know that discipline is something that not everyone embraces or practices, but I'm a very ambitious and driven person. I don't want to be the same. I believe every 6 months, I should be able to look back and be like, oh, I'm nothing like that. I've changed, of course, for the better. And I'm just, man, there's just so much I want to do in life and so many things I want to accomplish. And I want to just be around people who are disciplined. And look, their dreams and visions might not look like mine at all, but it's just something about being around that type of energy and being around, a person that is just determined, and I feed off of that. And so just having friends around me that are like, no, like I am not settling for mediocre. I am not, just going to be wasting my life going through the motions. Like, I'm going to get up early. I'm going to get these things done. I'm going to, keep, focus on my relationship with God. And I'm going to be about that. Like, that is what I need, because I see things like that and then it inspires me to go harder and to push harder. And then the last thing I want to mention, which ultimately is the biggest thing, is having friends who are God-fearing. If a person is not walking with Jesus, if Jesus is not their numero uno, I gotta go. Let me get my purse. Let me get out of here. Because that right there is everything. That is essential. I know these were in no particular order when I named them, but let me tell you, this is number one. And I just take that to heart. I've got to have friends who love Jesus. And, I'll kick it and have acquaintances who, they might be from different walks of life and they might not hold to my spiritual beliefs. But when it comes to my inner circle, women I'm doing life with, like, no, you need to know Jesus. You have to have a relationship with Jesus, because that right there is going to be the cord that holds us together. That's going to be the foundation of our friendship. I think about my husband and I when we started dating. There were some things we had in common, but the biggest thing for us is that we just love Jesus. We both had very rich relationships with God. And that really, because we had that, I felt like that really took care of everything else. Of course, there's more to pay attention to in relationships and things like that. I'm not saying if someone loves Jesus, then that's the green light. That's not what I'm saying. But when it comes to, friends, you want those friends who follow Jesus and who are really leading a biblical way of life. Like they are in the Word, and God, He speaks to you, you pass it on to them. Like, like you can really just have that. And I feel like whenever we have those God-centered friendships, things like jealousy and envy, I mean, they can try to rise up within us, but they're going to come right back down, because the Holy Spirit that's inside of us is going to say, we're not doing that. No. You know what I'm saying? And, I heard one of my friends say this, and it was kind of cool, because when her and I became friends, it was very formal. Like, it's not like we just started hanging out. I mean, she was like, I really see friendship qualities in you, but I need to know what are some of your values. But I remember her just telling me that if her spirit cannot agree with the spirit in someone else, in another person, they're not going to be friends. And that's just something I've always kind of carried with me. I'm not trying to be a hot girl. I'm not trying to come out here and stunt on everybody and be that chick. I'm not trying to do all that. If that's you, that's cool. But you can go over there and I'm gonna go over here. Like, I'm not in that business. You know what I'm saying? I'm about my Father's business, and I'm about getting things done for the kingdom of God. And this life is hard enough. Being a Christian is very hard. And so I just want to have people around me who we are all in the same boat. We're all in this together. And ultimately, we're all on the same team. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that it was encouraging to you. Y'all, friends are beautiful. Friends are beautiful. And some of you watching this video might just be like, wow, Amber, like, that's great. But I don't have friends. And look, I get it. I believe that the older we get, the harder it is to make friends, right? It's so easy when you're in school and in a controlled environment somewhere, and you're forced to be around the same people all the time. I would say if you're in a position where you don't have friends, I just want you to pray and ask God to bring you friends. A couple of friends that I have, one is old enough to be my mom, and the other is old enough to be my grandmother. But guess what? We are friends, and God brought me those women. He placed those women in my life at just the right time, and I know He can do the same thing for you. Before I go, I just want to remind you that the friends that you have and the people who you surround yourself with, these people can have the greatest impact on your future. And so, my encouragement to you and my advice is to choose wisely. You have the right and you have permission to be selective. If you enjoyed today's video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I would love to have you become a part of this online community. Also, comment below. Tell me something that was shared today that you might not have considered before. Or maybe there's something I didn't mention that really matters to you. Feel free to drop that below in the comments as well. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with a friend. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.